So in this session, what we're going to do is we are going to start by exploring the problem, and then we're going to generate a bunch of ideas around it. And we're going to do that using visual thinking and simple drawing. And you might say, well, why visual thinking and why drawing, and what does that have to do with education? And we'll get to that in a minute. But first, I guess there's probably a number of you who are thinking, but I can't draw. Well, the good news is you don't really need to know how to draw, because visual thinking isn't representational art. Yeah. In fact, if I had one of my kids' doodles around, which I don't, that would be perfectly fine. But I am going to prove you all wrong, because I believe you all actually can draw. You just don't realize it. So we're going to do a little exercise first to warm ourselves up a little bit from 2 points of view. I'm going to flip cameras, and what we're going to do is we're going to warm up by, we're going to draw the spirit of EduJam participants. Yeah. And so this is a kind of draw along exercise. So it's going to show to you that you have the power of drawing, not just anything, you've got the power of drawing people. Okay. So the first thing you've got to choose is, what does the body look like? And I'm going to give you 3 really, really challenging options. Okay. And so I'm going to do 3 and then you choose one. So the first one is tumbleweed. Yeah. Okay. So I know that might be a bit beyond you, but, you know, I think some of you might even be able to do that with your left hand. And bear in mind, think about spirit of EduJam participants. The next one is some kind of variation on a round-ish thing. Many people say they can't draw circles. You're lucky if you can draw a perfect circle. It's either an indication that you're a product designer that's practiced for 10 years, or else you're clinically insane. And then the last thing that we can use as a body then would be some kind of shape with 4 sides. Doesn't need to be a square, right? This is the body of your participant. Now, the next thing, obviously, a person needs, or one of the next things is legs. So we just do 2 kind of L's. Now, you know, our squiggle here has got quite long legs. Our circle here is going to be walking along. And, you know, maybe our square is sitting cross-legged. Yeah? How do I do that? Arms are really quite hard. They are curved lines of some kind. Now for the hand at the end, you can either just do another line, or you can do a circle, or you can just do, you know, a couple of curved lines. That's fine. And this one here obviously is going to be doing something like this. Okay, so we've got a body, we've got arms and legs. Don't think there's anything else we need, do we? Oh yes, a head. Now you've got some options here. So you can say, well, I'm going to add, as in a normal head. This can be any kind of shape you like. And of course, you can maybe add some features. A nose is quite good because it tells you where it's looking. Most people have noses. And also eyes can be quite good as well. They're also useful things to have on a face. The other option is where you, instead of adding a head, you add another object that tells you something about the person or the creature that you're creating. So let's say this one here is having bright ideas, as so many of you were yesterday. I could draw something like a light bulb. Now that you could choose to make that just appearing above the person, or you can actually turn it into a head. And of course, the last option then is you can make the object, the body itself, you can make the face quite easily. Now this one's meditating, so it's obviously got some kind of peaceful expression going on there. Now, the other thing with images is that typically they don't work on their own. What gives it more meaning is when you have some kind of label or a single word attached to that. So bearing in mind, we're talking about the spirit of EduJam participants. Put a word under your drawing of the EduJam participant that evokes the feeling. Visual thinking, why is that useful? And why is visual creativity in education? So first reason is it's a different type of thinking. And so a lot of our education is based around linear thinking, is based around thinking and writing. And there's something very, very simple about visual thinking, which actually accesses a completely different part of your brain. So from a neuroscience point of view, you're accessing a different type of intelligence. Okay, so that's not to say that visual thinking is fundamentally better from a more linear or a more kind of word-based approach, but it is different. And so just by introducing visual thinking into any kind of education or activity, I mean, in Work Visible, we say you can amplify anything with visual thinking because it accesses parts of your brain that we just don't normally access. Another thing that's very clear about visual thinking is that it allows you to see what you're thinking in a way that you can't really with words. It's far more immediate, and because it accesses a different part of your brain, it's letting you kind of very quickly reflect and get feedback on what's in your head. And as a result of that, you can kind of see where you're at, but you can also spark new ideas in terms of ways of thinking or concepts or whatever in a way that's quite dissimilar from if you're using word-based thinking. Visual thinking enables connections far more than in linear thinking or word-based thinking. So if you think about it, if you're listening to a talk or if you're reading a document, what's happening is as you're listening or as you're reading, your working memory has to capture what's being said or what you're reading and hold it in your kind of working memory. Now, in visual thinking, it's very different because typically you're seeing everything in front of you at one time. And so that makes it far more easy to enable connections. And so the thing about enabling connections, as Dorothy Nielsen and Sarah Thurber in their absolutely fantastic books about creativity point out, making connections really are the foundations for any kind of creativity. So when you're making connections, what you're actually doing is you're enhancing your ability to be creative. And fundamentally, the aspect of visual thinking makes it easier to make connections. So this means that you've got access to new ideas, and also because you kind of relax a bit, because it's kind of fun to doodle in a kind of non-formal, non-pressured way, then you're also more likely to make those connections as well. The other way that it's then really valuable is if we're saying that making connections is the foundation of creativity and coming up with creative ideas, then, well, how important is creativity? Well, I would say it's phenomenally important. I mean, so if we look at some of the stuff that's come out in the last couple of years, we've got the survey from this year from LinkedIn saying that the #1 skill that organizations need today in 2020 is creativity. Whereas if you look at so the World Economic Forum from their studies around the future of work and what's important in the future of work, they said the top 3 skills that are needed: complex problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. So clearly for us in the future and for educators in the future, actually building in the capacity to be creative as a foundation for our work is phenomenally important. It's something that is core to the kind of work that we're doing today, the kind of work that we're doing in when we're solving problems, when we're creating services, and so massively important for education. But if you look at education, I would put forward that creativity is massively missing in pretty much every curriculum. What we do is we attend to a lot of things around thinking, we attend to a lot of things around coming to the right answers, but actually there's a wealth of research and methods and capabilities and techniques that actively support creative thinking and creativity as a skill. Creativity isn't just for the creatives. It's not just designers. It's not just people that are in creative professions. Any profession right now and in the future is going to need creativity as a foundational skill. As a bonus, it happens to massively boost memory as well. So in a study in 2018 by Fernandez, Wams, and Mead, they had a look at all of the different kind of study methods that were used to try and retain information when studying. They named their research paper the surprisingly powerful influence of drawing on memory. And what they found was that gains are greater from drawing than any other known techniques for memorization. And interestingly, out of the study, it's not just drawing in general. It's, if you're trying to recall something, the act of thinking about it and trying to create and come up with something that is an anchor for that learning, it's that process that actually engages it and commits it to long-term memory. Okay, so that's why at Work Visible we say you can amplify anything with visual thinking. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put you into your teams. We're going to explore the problem a little bit by co-drawing it. Now, the reason why we want to explore the problem is we want to look at the different aspects of it so that you can then start generating ideas, not just on the overall problem, but actually on the various parts of it. The first thing that you're going to need to do is choose a theme. Now, I've got 4 suggestions here, which is city, landscape, monster, or abstract. And they're, you know, it's you can choose one at random. What we'll be doing is you'll all be drawing based on one of those themes. So you'll be drawing your problem based on one of those themes. So let's say you were drawing a city. Every one of you would draw a building that somehow represents your problem. Let's say you were doing a landscape. Everyone would draw a part of the landscape. So it could be a mountain. It could be a pile of boulders that are in the way, a cave with a bear in it. So you're drawing some aspect of the landscape that represents the problem that your team has articulated. In your team board that's got lots of space around it, put your how might we question in the middle of that space, and then upload your relative pictures around it. And once that's done, you want to reflect and explore the problem. And specifically, what I'd suggest that you do with that is to look at, say, a picture, and if it's yourself, to say, well, why do I have the smoke here? And then just put a little post-it that describes why, and just have a conversation about that. So we've got this one here, absolutely brilliant. I mean, they're just hilariously good. Omar, I think this was your one, drawing straight into the Miro. It's just genius. Classroom of clones, that literally had me in stitches. Is that a log rolling over a participant? I don't know. But absolutely fantastic. Brilliant to see. So I'm going to stop sharing. So hopefully that's you all warmed up. And now the fun part, we're going to generate some ideas, and we're going to use a work visible method for doing it. I'm just going to switch cameras. So this is a 6-step method. So step 1 is to list, right? What that is to generate as many ideas as you can for solving your problem on stickies. So the reason we do this with words first is idea generation is much faster with words. So it gives you a quick base to select. Now, this is ideas for solving the problem. And what I would suggest is you put the sticky next to the thing that's inspired you. So maybe, you know, we've got someone who's freaking out, and you've got ideas to make it a less stressful experience. It would go next to that. So it's you're talking about solutions, and the idea is go fast. Don't restrict yourself, just generate as many things as you can within 4 minutes. Okay. The next thing then is to draw. Each person does this on their own, and you basically try and repeat this loop as many times as you can in 4 minutes. I would say if you get between 2 and 4 pictures done, that would be great. So the idea is choose one of these idea post-its first, and then draw it. Yeah. So turn that into a solution picture, and you want to draw a picture and to label it as we've done in the pre-work. Then upload it to the board. And then have a look. So see what other people have done. So have a quick scan around the other things or in the pictures that have been uploaded, and then repeat. The next thing you're going to do, obviously, is to breakdance. Yeah, because that's what we do after we've done a little bit of drawing. I hope you're all expert breakdancers, but it's actually breakdown rather than breakdance. But so in that case, what we want to do is break your solution apart to its different component elements. So you would take a picture and then try and break it down into its component parts. So you can see with this example that we've got here, you know, it's kind of a squiggly line, but it doesn't necessarily need to be, you know, what you can see in the picture. It's kind of logically, how would that solution be composed? So here we've got a world, we've got, you know, a lightning bolt, we've got a phone, and we've got, maybe that's a ladder. And so that's generated 4 different pictures. Now, you can draw them all on the same page. You don't need to upload them as separate drawings. That's fine. Upload it. If you have any more time, if you can do another one, if you can get a couple done, that's absolutely great. So once you've done 4 minutes of breakdancing, you go on to combination. And this is where we're really starting to generate a bigger diversity of ideas. So what you're doing then is to choose 2 or more parts from different breakdances. I would maybe take the world from here and something from a completely different solution idea and try and mix them together to come up with a new idea. So combine those to make a new solution, and I would draw the new solution first and then upload it. And if you've got time, then do another one. So once we've combined ideas, we've got to this situation where we've got this list of ideas, we've got a whole series of solution drawings. We've broken those down, so we've got a whole load of sub-elements. You've done some mixing and combining, and this last section is just to play. So you want to choose anything from this exercise. So it could be a post-it, could be an initial solution drawing, a combination, a breakdance. And what we're going to ask you to do is draw it from a different perspective and upload it. So specifically, I've included some different perspectives for you here. So you could say from the student perspective, you could say from the teacher or tutor perspective, you could say from an onlooker, generally anyone looking in from the outside, or it could be a specific onlooker. Maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a partner of someone who's doing study as an adult. What's it like from the perspective of the whole class? So those are all kind of different perspectives from a people point of view, but you can also do different perspectives from a solution point of view. So you can take what you've got and you can make it absolutely enormous, or you can turn it inside out, or you can maybe flip it. If you want to flip it, then describe the thing and then describe the opposite. So for example, corporate education is normally done in 2-day sprints. It's very expensive and there's a short number of people. So if you flip that, it would be over an extended period of time, be super inexpensive and have a massive number of people. So literally turn it, basically flip every aspect of it. And the last part then, the last perspective would be to cut it in half and make it whole, which is to say to take the whole solution and literally rip it apart and make it functional and successful with half of what you came up for the solution. So play, and then lastly, reflect and explore, which is where you're talking about what you've come up with.